Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to today's bonus upload. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help, and it matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's bonus, shall we? So today's bonus is going to be some videos I'd like you guys to check out, and in between each video I'm just going to put a random terrifying encounter. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Завел синяков в жуткое место, такие руины, и вот, неспокойно, как бы вот еще солнце не зашло, а как-то мрачно, очень мрачно, еще и в колодце что-то шипит.
Alright, so with the videos I am not going to leave or say how I feel about him. I'm just going to leave it up to you guys to feel how you feel. Now, today's first encounter. So I grew up in the woods and I have many experiences of strange goings on, but this one happened a few weeks ago. I just left my mom's house and I was driving back down to mine on a back road I have driven many times before. I knew this road like the back of my hand and could drive down it with my eyes closed in reverse. No, I haven't actually done that. As I was getting to the halfway point down this road, there was a thick fog, which is nothing new, as there is fog on this road all the time. However, I was driving slowly and started taking turns I don't remember. There was a 90-degree right when it should have been a left, followed by a wide left turn that felt like a full circle. When I drove straight for about 5 minutes with no hills or drops, and that road never has a flat section that long. There was then a left turn up a hill. As I was going up, all the hair stood on my body, and I almost turned around right there. But I decided to keep going because, well, I don't know why. This is when I pulled my gun from my glove box and had it on my lap. When I looked back to the road, some dude was just crouched in the middle of the road. I slammed on my brakes and he didn't even flinch. I figured it was just some dude going frog hunting or some crap, as many people on that road just do that kind of stuff. I honked my horn and the guy stood up. He was massive, at least 7.5 feet tall, thin as a mother, and his arms were really long. It looked like he didn't have any clothes on either. I lied on the horn again and clicked off the safety of my pistol just in case. He turned his head to what seemed like an almost 180-degree turn, and his eyes had that predator glow like a wolf or a cat. I raised my gun and leaned out the window, telling him to get lost. He took a few steps toward me, and I know this was stupid, but I tried to pull the trigger and my gun just did not fire. Hammer clicked and no boom. I whipped the car around as fast as I could, and then I just flew down the road, at least 20 miles over the speed limit. After 30 seconds, I turned around and realized that I had recognized all the turns and hills. I was driving down the road like I had never taken the first right. I went back during the day, and I still don't know where I took a wrong turn. There are no side streets down that road that are paved, and certainly no straightaway as long as the one I drove on. I went to the range a day or two later, and I put the same round in the chamber and fired no problem. I have no idea what happened. I also don't drive that way at night anymore. None of my friends believe me, and my mother doesn't either. I know I'm not crazy. I know this happened. I am just looking for answers. I have no idea what happened that night. Tonight's second bonus. One night, 4 friends, we'll call them JB, Matt, John, and Jesse, had taken a late night trip out to the boonies to drink some beer and get high without fear of being approached by the police. They had all rode down together in John's truck. They parked, let the tailgate down, cracked open the ice chest, and were debating whether or not to start a bonfire. While the other 3 attempted to get a fire going, JB had decided to give some girls they knew a call and invite them to the festival. He was forced to walk off a few feet from his pals to try and maintain a better signal, as well as to hear them better over their shouting and laughter of his increasingly buzzed friends. He had found a good spot in a small clearing and was about to dial when he saw some rustling in the nearby trees. Thinking nothing of it at first, he continued to dial, that is, until he heard it. What he could best describe as a blood-curdling shriek from the wooded area right beside him. He, of course, booked it the hell out of there in the direction of his friends. His friends, who had also heard the noise, were all stunned and waiting for JB to offer an explanation for where the sound had come from. The explanation that came is in the form of, "I don't know, but we need to get the F out of here and right now." Matt and Jesse were curious as to what it was, but hesitant to leave. Luckily for the entire group, John, the driver, is Navajo and already had a pretty good idea what made that sound and was making his way to the truck, keys in hand, and yelling for the rest of them to come. JB took no convincing and was only a few steps behind and made his way into the passenger seat. Matt and Jesse protested, but realized it was futile. When the truck slowly began to take off without them, they quickly jumped into the bed, and John floored it out of there the way they had come. Matt and Jesse had gripped tight onto the truck bed rails so they didn't bounce over the side as John sped down the dirt road. Jesse was just gaining his balance when Matt began to scream in terror and began frantically pointing toward the tree line they were rapidly passing. Jesse struggled for a moment to make out what was being pointed out to him, when suddenly it was clear. There was a figure chasing them, leaping from tree to tree, keeping pace with the truck at an incredible speed. In the darkness, there were no features that could be made out, other than it was a very large human-like creature and moved very fast, and jumped further than any human possibly could. Jesse later said, had they been in the jungle, he would have believed it was some kind of giant primate stalking them through the woods. Both Matt and Jesse began to shout for John to floor it. He did, and less than a half a mile away the tree line would end, but Matt and Jesse began to worry that once the creature reached that last tree, its last giant leap would land in the bed of the truck with them. Fortunately, as they reached the last tree, they could see lights of civilization. The thing had vanished as quickly as it had moved. The 4 continued to speed all the way to John's home, and were grateful that they had arrived in one piece. Once home, John explained that even though he had purposely not looked behind to see what was following them, he believed it was possibly a skinwalker or a dogman. JB also did not see what had followed them through the trees, because he unashamedly admitted to crouching in the passenger seat's floorboard and praying for safety the whole way home. and today's last bonus experience. I debated whether or not to share this. My husband, 28, myself, 25, stay in a small town that borders the massive redwood forest. We are about 15 minutes or less from the trees of mystery. We live on a street that was built in the middle of the forest for whatever reason. There are 2 large patches, maybe 5 to 15 miles, plus one of which has a small forest bridge that connects to an even larger forest. On either end of our street, we will also say, we tend to be night owls, preferring to stay up late and wake up late. So, getting to what happened, my husband was getting ready for bed while I sat under the covers. It was a nice cool fall evening after a hot day, so I opened the window just to curl up under my blankets with the wonderful fall air on my face. While lying on my phone, not asleep yet, I started to look up the next full moon just 'cause I'm sort of into that stuff. I was surprised to find that the moon was 100% tonight. So I looked outside the window from my bedside and confirmed the amount of light on the ground outside on our street, which has no streetlights since it's an old street. It was very well lit in the bluish moon-toned color. I was kind of like, oh neat, and then sat down on my phone. I like to wait for my husband to get into bed before I fall asleep. I don't know if it's a comfort thing or not, but I usually can't sleep well in the bed unless he's near me. So I was wide awake sitting there for about 5 minutes listening to the crickets outside when I heard a scream up my street. It sounded like it was coming 2 to 3 doors down near one of the edges of the forest. At first, it was just like a fearful scream. But the more it continued, the more I realized, oh, it's just a guy making a fake scream. Why, it's 2 in the morning. But the scream went on for far too long. And then, at the tail end, went from that silly fake scream to a deep, gurgling roar. Similar to, I don't know, when someone is transforming into something in movies. But at the same time, the first part of the scream did not sound real, like it was forced or just pretend to be a scream. I don't recall whether or not the crickets went silent, by the way. I just know I was no longer trying to listen to them after hearing that crazy sound. I've wondered Sasquatch, werewolf/dogman, some other crazy critter, all the way up to a person doing it, but no one could do that. Or for that long. Plus it echoed and it felt like a live sound, not a speaker system or anything like that. I've gone through every possibility, and I still can't come up with what it may have been.
They can tell all the lies that they want, unfortunately. I just don't think that people will believe them because it's not true. They can tell all the lies that they want, unfortunately. I just don't think that people will believe them because it's not true.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's or today's bonus of some terrifying experiences and some terrifying videos. I'm not sure about any of them, the videos, I mean. But they're definitely pretty neat to look at, so I hope you guys enjoyed them. With that, may the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that, well, we call life.